It's my pleasure to welcome you to Big Talk here on Global Television, where we'll take a look at the current state of the nation, what major stakeholders and politicians, political gladiators, and every Nigerians are doing in getting the country better, because we'll look at the country getting it right at all levels. Tonight on the program, we'll be looking at the recent call by some groups and many Nigerians for a new constitution. Some are saying amend the constitution. Some are saying we need an entire new constitution to be able to address many challenges we're having in the country. What is a way forward? And what are the compounding issues we are having in the country? What are we confronted with? Because many groups have continued to back the renewed call for restructuring and accountability, saying that the country will benefit from a return to the original concept. What is really the original concept of this country? It is said that Nigeria requires a political governance, a structure with an equitable and inclusive power structure, a hybrid homegrown democratic governance structure with elements of the parliamentary system. Of course, tonight we'll be having a stakeholder in the country and a statesman who understand the issues of the nations, and of course will be helping us to unbundle some of these issues confronting the nation. Tonight also on the program, after this first discussion, we'll also be going to Edo State, where we'll look at the politics in Edo State. I'll be speaking with the director of contact and mobilization of the APC Campaign Council, who will be joining us on the program to give us a perspective on the issues on ground. Many issues we'll be addressing tonight, 2 issues already. Now, to unbundle these issues tonight, confronting the nation and to totally make sense of the current situations of the country, I'm being joined by an elder statesman, Dr. Bartholomew Abochendu. Is the head of Volunteer Refugee Foundation Worldwide. Tonight, thanks so much, Doctor, for joining us on the program.
It's my pleasure.
A whole lot of concern. Some Nigerians are calling that 1999 Constitution is not helping us. Some are saying amend the Constitution. Some are saying we need an entirely new Constitution. What's your concern about the recent call by many groups? We've seen many patriot groups visiting the president, and the president responds to that issues of constitution. Do you feel that that's the problem of this country?
Yeah, Mr. Mike, if you are doing a thing and you feel it is not good enough, there is always the opportunity for you to change dimension. As a farmer in the village, when you are using a street path to your farm and you feel that is not good enough, of course, you can create another path. But before you create another path, the initial one that was created, you might have been using it. The cry for a new constitution or the reformation of the existing constitution, we need, first of all, to ask ourselves the questions. The former one, have we been able to utilize it? Have we been able to utilize it? The Constitution is not the issue, but the people that are making use of the Constitution. A lot of people ranging from the third tiers of government. You know, we have the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive.
Yes.
They abuse the Constitution. The legislators, they make the laws. The judiciary interpret it. And the executive use the laws. But you could admit
where have we gotten it wrong?
You could admit with me that these 3 tiers of governance, the only department that are doing their work is the legislature. They make the laws, but when it comes into interpretation by the judiciary, they do what they want through the bindings of the executive. The executive has a mind, tailored towards one direction, and he pressures the judiciary to interpret the law to favor him so that he can do whatever he wants. So, if we say we are craving for a new constitution, it should be on the table that we have been able to use the existing constitution very well. Mr. Mike, pause a little and follow me along. Like this electoral year that has just passed. The Constitution was very, very clear that before you emerge as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you must take 25% into thirds of the states of the Federation, including the FCT. When the judiciary came to it, they did what they wanted. That is the problem. If you are looking for the constitution, a new constitution, then it should be on ground that you are prepared when the constitution is made to follow it the way it is.
So are you saying that individuals are the ones who also are vetting some of the implementations?
It is individuals, the executive. If the executive wants to carry out an order.
Because some are arguing that the clause in the laws are not enough. It's giving room for people to misinterpret the law. And most times you see in that constitution, if you look at, you had followed the issues of the tribunal appeal and the judgment by the Supreme Court on the issues of the last election. You saw that it was an issue of interpretation. It wasn't very clear. So that's the reason many people are saying, if we think we have some lacunas in the constitution that we must amend so as not to give room for all of this. But I may understand your situation about people who are implementing or interpreting are also encouraging some of the frauds we have in this country. But what do you feel? Are you making sense that we ought to, or you are still bent on that the 1919 constitution is people-centric, is working enough for the development of this country?
Mr. Mike, let me tell you, the judiciary, they have the knife and they have the yam. Whatever they want to do, they can do. If I am free to say something about the judicial department of the country, you know, if I bring out about 3 professions, I have the lawyers, the medical practitioners, and the engineers. I will say that the doctors, the medical practitioners, most of them will go to heaven, whereas most of the lawyers will go to hell.
They just recently had their MBA conference.
Because when they see something to be white in the open glare of everybody, they say it is black. And if they continue like that and it gets to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court says it is black, even if it is white, you are looking at it as white. That is how it stays. Whether people cry or they go to hell or they go and hug a transformer is none of their business.
Because the lawyers will tell you that they don't work with sentiment, they work with interpretation, the ability to interpret. So sometimes we have some of these people who are going to the court hiring the best and the right people to make some of these arguments. Because you have to make the argument, you have to win the argument in the court. They doesn't work with what the people are saying.
Mr. Mike, what I'm trying to say is, let us first of all work on ourselves. Self-reformation, personality reformation is what we need. If not, anything we do to the Constitution, and the human beings are still who they are, they employ technicalities into doing whatever they want to do. We will still be where we have been.
All right. Let's get to issues of the politics, because sometimes if you ask the judiciary, or if you ask the INEC, or if you ask some experts or civil societies, they will tell you that politicians are the one that makes these things difficult for them. They are the ones that are running to court. After the post or primary elections in their party, internal party, they are caused by the politicians. So when you look at the rules, I mean, are they really playing by the rules of the game in politics? Because we ought to be that they should be guided by what the law says. But what do you have in the recent political dynamics, internal democracy in some party? What is your assessment?
Politics come by a reason of a democratic dispensation. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Yes. And it is the politicians that handle democracy. But politics in Nigeria, the way it is run, it makes things go absurd. Politics in Nigeria today, everything has been made to be politics-centric. Everything has been moved into politics. A lot of things have been moved into politics. A lecturer in the university would want to be a politician. The professors, they would like to be politicians. The doctors, the medical doctors, because they have made politics to be so attractive. And in this vein, people kill, they maim to get there, to get to that place. Imagine a local government chairman. What he gets cannot be compared with what a professor earns. I don't know the package of professors in this country, but I think I make bold to say that they may not take back home more than 2 million naira in a month. But I make bold to tell you here and now that there is no local government that a local government chairman goes home with less than 10 million naira in a month. This makes everybody to be politics-centric. How can there be production when the professor cannot settle in the classroom to produce things, to make new discoveries? The politician will be running to the local government chairman. The professor will be running to the local government chairman. And when you look at the engineers in the country, when people win contracts and they say construct this road, they will give them instruction. Use inferior materials to do this work so that it will get destroyed and we will be back soon to do it. That is what is happening. The politicians are making things difficult for us. If you leave it with me to advise the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is to revisit the packages for politicians at all levels.
But they will tell you that their salary is not enough. I mean, you look at the issues that some of them earn 2 million, 5 million, and all of that. So some person are saying, I mean, if you look at the salary of lawmakers as well, even some of the executive, it's not what we are really arguing about, the corruption or the embezzlement. Do you feel that there's another rooms created for such a very huge embezzlement in the country?
The politicians, they will never tell you the truth.
Because even the salary commission...
If they tell you to stand here, if you stand there, you are in trouble. When the lion comes, the lion will devour you. If what they are taking in their political offices are not attractive, why do they struggle to be there? Why do they kill? Why do they maim to be there?
All they say is because of passion to serve.
Are they the only one who have the passion to serve? Must you serve? Mike, must you serve? That is the issue.
I mean, one of the cleric, I wouldn't want to mention them as said that the problem we are having is a spiritual problem, because when you look at some of these reformations, sometimes government will tell you we are doing this, we have invested this, we've shared over 570 billion to state, we've done all of this. Look at Nigeria's problem, the fact that we have grown from year to year, but at the end of the day, we are still being confronted with a whole lot of challenge. So some people may say, it seems you are having a spiritual problem and not political. Is that what you believe, Doctor?
Mike, it amazes me when one of the men of God that I respect so much, and if permitted, I will say he is my role model, came and said such thing when he visited the Kaduna State governor. My own father, I call him my own father in the faith, Pastor E.A. Adeboye, when they were discussing things of interest, and he told the governor that the problem of Nigeria is not political, but physical. It made my head to blow. How will you say the problem or the problems confronting Nigeria are not political, that they are spiritual? Are there no spiritual agents in Canada? Are there no spiritual agents in America? Are there not in China? Is it only in Nigeria that demons came and gathered? Look, let me tell you,
we
Mike.
just I heard sometimes he said if we go into offices, someone who was preaching to do the right thing, at the moment he has opportunity to go into a public office, we sometimes not see the person doing what he was preaching or advocating for. We find that in this country. And sometimes that's why we are forced to ask. These were the people we were advocating. These were the people that were saying the truth to power. But what happens immediately they go into office?
For sure, Mike. Let's look at the issue of kidnapping. Let's look at the issue of kidnapping. About 2 weeks, close to 2 weeks ago, some 20 medical students who were on their way to Enugu, 8 from the University of Maiduguri, while 12 from the University of Jos, they were kidnapped at the Untonkom forest of Benue State. And the Inspector General of Police switched into action immediately with collaboration with the NSA for those people to be freed. And they were freed. And shockingly, they say the freedom of those people were without ransom being paid. You also look at far north, around Kebi, the emir of Gurbi was abducted. And as people did not deploy the drones, the choppers that they deployed in the interest of the medical doctor, the emir was killed. Mr. Mike, when I think of Leah Sharibu, still in captivity, I begin to wail for this country. Why will that girl still be in captivity? Is it that the security agents don't know where she is? Or they don't know where their abductors, her abductors are? You will look at it that maybe the killing of the emir of Gorbi, if you look at it very well, you carry out constructive investigation, you will know that it has some political undertones. So my father coming up to say that Nigerian problem is spiritual rather than political, I disagree with that. One can disagree with his father. If it were spiritual, I believe Adebo alone can handle it. The way I rate him in the spiritual atmosphere. How many men of God go to the mountain to pray for Nigeria? And the demons will not listen to them? Sir, in life, you have spiritual problems to attack. You also have the physical to attack. If you do the spiritual alone and you relax without doing the physical, you will fail. The children of Israel that were being led from Egypt to Canaan land, they came to a place called Rephidim. And the Amalekites came to challenge them. Moses, as man of God as he was, he did not even pray. He called Joshua, please gather the youths and go and fight, while me and Aaron and all will go to the mountain to pray. The spiritual aspect was there and the physical aspect was there. And victory was won. Nigeria, we have done a lot of spiritual activities. It needs physical activities. The politicians, they need to come together and say, this is our country. We must build it. The problem in Nigeria is political rather than spiritual.
All right, we'll try as much as possible. Probably I'm not a pastor or neither do I understand better issues of spirituality, but probably they are concerned because it always looks that it's beyond human comprehension about the real problem and the factors is. But let's get into institutions of government. There have been a concern. Recently, you see the invitation by the police and NLC are saying we are being intimidated. They are trying to silence our voice. Sometimes you see that institutions of government are not independent as it ought to be. What's your take on the current state of our institutions and linking that to the fact that the recent invitation by the police to the NLC?
Yes, the police have the right to invite anybody. They have the right to invite anybody. But in doing that, most especially the intelligent aspect of the Nigerian police force, you should also put your minds and your senses together to make sure that whatever you are out to do is not misinterpreted by the people. In my language, they said, Ochu ogu pa odu, omala leku odudu, ene pomaleta kimachu chukpan. I'm sorry, Mike, I'm speaking in tongues, but I'm interpreting what I said. He said, the witch cried in the night, and in the morning, the baby died. Who killed the baby? Now, the invitation of Ajaero Joe, the NLC boss by the Nigerian police force, if I were the Nigerian police force, I won't do the invitation now yet, because the invitation would be misinterpreted by a lot of Nigerians. That is a hangover of the feud that had been between the NLC and the Nigerian police force. That is how I look at it.
All right, moving forward, there are off-cycle elections prepared by INEC for Edo, and the next one will be that of Ondo. And this also brings concern on the electoral reform. So we've had the amendment of Electoral Act as at 2022. Many persons said INEC didn't properly follow what they said. INEC will tell you that, issues of transmission of result was on the guidelines, proper all of those interpretations. Some persons said they are not satisfied about the old Electoral Act, what it means, how our elections are conducted. We invested so much in the last presidential and the elections, the National Assembly elections we had in this country. But some Nigerians, if we go into the street and ask, they still feel dissatisfied. But we are not the court. Neither are we in the better place to prove them wrong. But looking at the whole electoral issues, how do you feel that we need electoral reformations in the country?
Mr. Mike, we go back to what I said earlier when we were talking about constitutional reform. It all boils down to the person who is handling the issue. In my language, again, they said, Ugbo kedogba, unchogbo togboyi. That is to say, wherever you wish, you can put as the front of the gown you are putting on. Like as I'm putting on the gown now, I can turn it over and put the one that is at the back at the front, and the one that is at the front at the back. I will still look handsome. The electoral acts that have been on board have been properly utilized. Have we properly utilized the divers machine? Have we properly utilized it? Haven't we see areas where the beavers machine were supposed to be used and they were not used, and the court interpreted it the way it wanted? As for me, I would like us, in the area of the Electoral Act, I would like us to do something about it. If what is done in developed countries can be brought to Nigeria, like you see it at the comfort of your room, and you do your voting, and it will count, and you will follow it. Nigerians, they know that to do. If our father, the president of this country, Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, can bring that reform so that elections can be transparently handled, I would like it more and more. But my advice to the conduct of election in Edo and Ondo is that please, we are all brothers. Let us keep arms down. Let us keep arms down. Even these positions we are talking about, after you have gotten it, if God says you should not enjoy it, you will not enjoy it. Take a look at Kogi. Abubakar Audu, about 7 years ago or 8 years ago, he won the poll, but he was not alive to enjoy it. That can happen to anybody. So the issue of election, let's handle it with maturity.
Because we are very much concerned, because part of the problem we may have is the fact is a recruitment process. Many persons said leadership issues is from how you're recruiting. We've seen the local government autonomy granted to the local government. What's your concern about the issues of local government autonomy, and also understanding the fact that some persons said governors are taking almost all the local government chairman seat. We've seen some state conducting elections, the ruling party have to take almost all the position, and not minding the fact that in some locality opposition was stronger. But we see that the institution conducting elections in the local government are somehow compromised.
Now, it all boils down to...
Or should the power rather be given should the power rather be given to INEC? Because there are some argument, should INEC rather conduct local government elections we have?
The INEC are given the powers to conduct elections. But in a place whereby, despite the fact that local government autonomy has been granted, the chairman is still leave themselves to the whims and caprices of the governor. It is their own pot of tea. But if I were the local government chairman, we will take decisions on our own, independent of the governor. The governor cannot say, okay, we are the ruling party, this, that, this, that. If you package yourself very well, opposition can win election in a local government. And that is what I advise local governments across the country to do. No time to jitter. You have your independence, you have your autonomy, you plan your pathways the way you want to travel.
All right, let's look at the issue of security. Recently, the president have appointed the new NIA and DSS. I mean, so even the Chief of Defense Staff has to raise the issues of bilateral to create more regional protection for the West African states. Looking at issues of the fact that some persons said we are having influx of people coming into the country, and that's the reason is increasing more of the issues of insecurity we are having in this country. What's your concern about that proposal by the Chief of Defense Staff to the federal government?
The idea of bilateral relation with our neighboring country is not a bad idea. Like Niger, for instance, I learned that Niger stretches through about 1,500 kilometers on our borders. About 7 states within the country, are bounded with Niger. There's nothing bad in getting into bilateral agreement or relationship with Niger to make sure that we consolidate on regional security. But one question that stares us at the face is this: do we need the Nigerians to be able to foster security in our own country? Do we need to get into agreement, bilateral agreement with Nigerians before we flush out the terrorists that are in Sambisa forest? Do we need the Nigerians before we flush out the terrorists that are in Zamfara, in Sokoto? Name them. Do we need them? Do we need them? How can't we handle those ones first? America, for instance, did they need the bilateral relation with their border countries like Mexico and Canada before they do well security-wise? No. No. If they would exist independently security-wise, is an issue of them calling an in-house meeting. This is how we want to go. This is how we want to go. So before we involve the Nigerians, we ourselves, the Nigerians, we need to sit together, bring all the politicians together. We don't want terrorism in our country anymore. Let them be flushed out. Let politics be flushed out of the issue. We don't need the Nigerians to tackle Sambisa forest. We don't need the Nigerians to tackle Zamfara and the rest of them. Let us first of all do what we are supposed to do. In my language, again, it said, Obatako egu kinyoyo ododa nyatido ido taije ho jimuta.
You help us interpret that.
That is to say that before a masquerade goes outside to dance, when you dress him, he will first of all dance in the dressing room and appraise himself. Before you go into bilateral relation with Nigerian, we ourselves, we need to be satisfied with our security structure. That is what I am saying.
All right, just before we begin to wrap up, issues of insecurity in the southeast. There have been a recent glamour that the continuous detention of Nnamdi Kanu is also causing a whole lot of problem there. And now we see government are making some move, for the extradition of Simon. Many persons are saying that going after Simon from his very country, Finland, that he is right now, will also continually create more pressure on the insecurity. Because right now, I was looking at Anambra State after 33 years yesterday on the program. I said people can't stay outside after 5 p.m. In some states, many governors from the southeast are taking their ceremonies or events or even personalities back to the Federal Capital Territory or Lagos. So it means that is also pushing away foreign investors from that region. So there is a continual pressure on the federal government to release Nnamdi. What's your take about that?
Now, first and foremost, the push by the government for the extradition of Simon Ekpa, I don't think that is the area Nigeria should go. And again, one other thing that we should speak to ourselves is to grant Nigerians freedom of speech. Why would it be that when anybody wants to speak against the government, he first of all jets out of this country? It's not correct. We are in democracy. We should be given freedom of speech. Let everybody express himself. Even in the bid to express yourself, if you say something nasty against the government should also act as a father to draw you close. What are your problems? How do we look at it? Look at the bad governance arrangement protests. Before Sowore could arrange for it, he jetted out of the country. It is not supposed to be so. Let us get developed. Let us not be terrorists to ourselves. Let us give ourselves freedom. As for the freedom of Nnamdi Kanu, I strongly support it. Let us not just continue to pour sand on our faces.
All right.
In my language, again, they say that elamafan omiakelemutejun. When you want to eat meat, if the meat is not strong on trying to pull it, the water in the meat that contains pepper will not get into your eye. If the meat is soft, it will not get into your eye.
Thanks so much,
Let
Doctor.
us handle ourselves gently.
Dr. Bartholomew Abochendo, Head Volunteer Refugee Foundation Worldwide, thanks so much for your contributions and insight on the program.
My pleasure, and I'm happy for inviting me as a guest.
Thanks so much.
For this
Thanks so much.
program.
Thanks so much, Doctor.
Okay.
We'll go on a break, and once we return from the break, we'll now head over to the issues and the politics from Edo State. They are concerned about what is going on in Edo. The three major political parties, Labour, APC, and PDP, are still on trying to get to the government house. Let's get a look at, as always, speaking with the Director of Contact for APC in Edo State elections and the former minority leader of the House of Representatives. Do stay with us. I'll be right back on the program. Many thanks, everyone. It's still days counting forward for Edo's September 21st election. And what it really looks at, almost all the parties on the campaigns are trying to convince the people of Edo to elect their candidate for the next government house occupant. And of course, tonight I'm being joined by Dr. Samson Ozagie, Director of Contact, Edo APC Campaign Council, who was the former minority leader in the House of Representatives and, of course, a legal practitioner. Thanks so much, Doctor, for finding time to join us on the program tonight. All right, Doctor, please, you do us... okay, if you can hear me. Doctor, can you hear me, please? If you can unmute your audio, please, help us. All right. My first question, Doctor, will be a whole lot of concern about your candidates. We've tried as much as possible to be following the campaigns. Some persons said, we have the PDP candidate that is a legal practitioner just like you. We have the Labour Party candidate that is a legal practitioner just like you with track records. What can you really boast of the track record of the APC candidate? We understand that he's a senator and all of that. Do you feel that he has a capacity for that big shoe in Edo State? Doctor, we're trying as much as possible to, I know you can hear me, please do well to check your audio or mute, please. It's really not coming to our end. All right, I'll try as much as possible to get Dr. Samson, who is the Director of Contact for APC Gubernatorial Campaign Council, to join us very shortly. Do stay with us, please.
For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on Global Television.
Many thanks, everyone, for still staying with us on Big Talk. We're trying as much as possible to get feedback from the politics in Edo. Of course, tonight I'll be joined by the Director of Contact for APC Gubernatorial Campaign Council, Dr. Samson Ozagie, a former minority leader, House of Representatives, and legal practitioner. Doctor, we'll try as much as possible to appreciate you. If you can hear us, give us an understanding about your candidates, your candidacy. I'm talking of the APC candidates in your state, because some persons said he probably might not have the capacity and the track record to govern Edo State. Is that a true situation?
Absolutely.
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Doctor, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, it is true that our candidate has a rich record of service to his community over the years. He has served his community with the proceeds of his business. And to start with, he is not a distinguished senator of the Federal Republic that has no second address. I know him personally as a businessman who runs an intercom and telecommunication company. He has been doing this business for quite a number of years, providing internet services for higher institutions of learning, both home and abroad. He has even won, his company has won an awards across the continent. He's a businessman, and he's a very successful businessman at that. And having come from the cradle with a very humble background, he swore that when God blesses him, he was going to continue to contribute to the well-being of his immediate community. So what the APC candidate has that the other candidates do not have, in spite of their academic records and experience in life, is that he has a rich record of community service to his people in Esan Central local government and to his senatorial district, Edo Central Senatorial District. Those activities and services that he has rendered to his people are what the other candidates do not have. And of course, selection of leadership cannot just be based alone on academic qualification or work experiences in various places. You must also consider the capacity of the candidate to provide services even before he joins government. And there is clear and demonstrable evidence that Senator Mondo Okwewolo has, over the years, even before he became senator, contributed to the well-being of his community, the well-being of his local government, and the well-being of his senatorial district. He is well qualified with more than the minimum qualification to run for this election under the Constitution. So he is not one candidate that has no fixed address. He's a very quiet person, very unassuming, very humble. He may not be an extrovert, but that does not mean that he has not been able to run his private business, ran for Senate in his senatorial district, won the election in 25 years, where our political party has never won an election in Edo State. So if anything else, our candidate in this election possesses a huge dose of record of community service to his people in Esan land. And because he has such a record, it is therefore clear that he has the capacity to render service and provide leadership for the development of this state. And I think that's what the Edo people want.
All right. The reason I was asking, a very fantastic approach to his candidacy, but they are concerned very deeply about godfatherism in Edo State. In the last election in Edo, the people of Edo had rejected godfatherism. And now Obaseki is trying to also come through another way of also installing a successor. And some people said that the former governor, His Excellency Adams Oshimole, is also having the support of their candidacy. Is that a true situation where people are rejecting your candidacy on the grounds that he is being pushed by some quarters to come for the race?
My first response is that our candidate, the APC, is not being rejected by the people of Edo State. On a daily basis, he is on the road. He's in every community, talking to the people of Edo State what he's going to do to provide succor, to provide service and deliver good governance to the people of Edo State. And he's been accepted across the length and breadth of Edo State. So he's not been rejected. On the other hand, if anybody is trying to play the role of a godfather, is the incumbent governor of the state, who upon running the state for about 8 years now, is surreptitiously and trying to coerce Edo people in order for them to vote for his bosom friend, who barely knows and understands the political and economic terrain of Edo State, including his immediate domain, which is in Eastern Southeast local government. So I dare say that Comrade Adams Oshomole is this leader of the party in Edo State. He is a senator of the Federal Republic, and indeed, at best, a colleague in the Senate of our candidate. So he cannot be a godfather. I mean, he couldn't be a godfather because he didn't pick the candidate on his own. Senator Monde Okpewolo was not a candidate that was imposed by anybody, albeit Adams Oshomole on the APC. Okpewolo emerged as candidate of the party after a hotly contested primaries. So he was not imposed. So if anybody was imposed in this election, it could be the candidate of the PDP who was imposed by the godfather of the PDP, who has driven out legacy PDP members from the party. He met them and where they gave him umbrella to cover himself. And then he has taken over the party as a warlord and driven out the people of the party. So the godfather of politics that we have today is the governor of the state. And that's in the fact that there are a plethora of court cases
audio, Doctor. All right, as much as possible, Doctor, you can please do well to check your audio because we've just lost the track of it. But away from that issue, now I would love you to respond on that. The last election saw Labour Party coming out with heavy words, I mean, to the point that they have representatives now in the National Assembly through the outcome of the last election. Are the members of APC bothered about the fact that Labour Party is also a force to contend with this time, not just the People's Democratic Party that they're having to confront with, which is a big factor and issue right in there. What's your concern about Labour Party candidacy? A lot of efforts for Doctor to speak to us with that break of transmissions and audio. Let's get to go on a break, and once we return from the break, we'll see as much as possible to get Doctor to finalize and answer that particular question before we wrap it up on the program. Just stay with us. Many thanks everyone for staying with us. This is Big Talk, where of course we are trying to speak with the Director of Contact for APC, a campaign council in Edo State. Doctor, if you're still with us, I'd love you to respond. The fact there are many factors in this election. Now, a Labour Party factor is also concerned. The rise of obedience movement was very strong in Edo to the point that they now have even members of the National Assembly. And some people are saying that, I mean, they are not just a push away. They are not just people that you cannot get to plan with and to deal with in this election. So there are people who are also calling of a lot of concern about your party, to take into consideration that this time it's not just the People's Democratic Party that you're having to confront with. All right, lost with Doctor again, but I mean, we'll try as much as possible to always get some of them to speak with us, owing to the fact that they're concerned. We'll try to know what the people are really saying and what they have for the people of Edo State. Just really less than a month to go for Edo 2024, scheduled for September 21st. And today, the Independent National Electoral Commission met with the political parties, briefing them and also scheduling day for the peace accord, where they will all have to sign to go on a peaceful exercise. I mean, election is about voting just exercising your right. So we do not want a situation where it will be marred with a whole lot of violence, just as we were maybe witnessing in other parts of the country during our cycle election. We are so much particular about Edo and of course Ondo, which will be coming up on November. So all of these are the upcoming elections we are having in the country, and we are putting a searchlight on that, knowing what the candidates are doing, knowing what the political parties are saying, and what really they have for the people, because it's time we start holding some of our leaders accountable, and not just accountable when they are in office, but before they now go into that office, what they really have. We deeply appreciate every attempt to get Dr. Samson, but as much as possible, with a whole lot of breakdowns and technicality, we'll try as much as possible to get him subsequently on the program. Tonight, that's where we'll draw the curtain, and of course, briefing you on the state of the politics. Earlier, we highlighted the issues in the country. The call for restructuring and the amendment of a constitution is still ongoing, just to get the country better. The president is out of the country for good. Of course, we try as much as possible to also understand that whatever the president is engaging is for the betterment of the country. And the ministers and everyone are still being engaged and charged to do the work and not the talking this time. My name is Edika Michael, and it's a pleasure and a very big thanks to have you join us on Big Talk tonight. See you again tomorrow, or we'll take on another issue. Bye-bye for now.